Absolutely.
Well, once again, we'll try for number two because I failed the last time. My computer failed. I didn't fail. But here's my good friend, Michael Riedel from WOR. How are you, Michael?
I'm all right, Ralph. How are you?
Oh,
What's going on?
fantastic. Fantastic, man. Thanks for joining me again. I'll get right into it because I'm thinking about the migrants. And who isn't thinking about the migrants? I think everybody's thinking about the migrants. I hear they're going door to door. I hear that they're mostly 25, 30, 35-year-old men. And I also hear there are very few women and children that are being neglected. It's mostly these 30-year-old guys that are actually causing people to be a little bit wary, a little bit frightened. What's your take generally on what's going on right now with the migrant situation?
It's very simple, Ralph. When Donald Trump was president of the United States, everybody declared themselves, all these blue states, they declared themselves open borders. Let's let everybody come here because we want to be the best people, the humanitarians. We want everyone to come here. We're going to take care of everybody because Donald Trump wants to keep you out. And you know what? What happened is that all of those people came here. They came here because Joe Biden said the borders are open. And they've come here now. And all of these cities that thought they were so proud to go against Donald Trump. We would be the sanctuary city. And now they have to deal with being a sanctuary city and they can't handle it. And it's a complete and total mess.
Yeah, they rolled out the red carpet. They said, come one, come all.
Absolutely.
And they got exactly what they asked for. And I have a little compassion in my heart. I'm not your guy that says, go home, we don't need you. But can you possibly come here legally or do it the correct way? But I guess that's gone by the boards. That's not even an issue anymore because we roll out that red carpet and everybody's welcome and we just can't handle it.
Right. But Ralph, what the Democrats want to do is they want to hook all these people up on the welfare state. They want to raise the taxes. They want to keep raising the taxes everywhere in the blue states. And they want to hook these people up on, we're going to give you this. We're going to give you housing and food and this. And then you will vote for us as Democrats all the time. That is the grand scheme of the Democratic Party. They want to hook people up on the welfare state. That is their overall reaching thing to do. And we have to stop this because it's nonsense. It is absolute nonsense.
Yeah, some people say it's a conspiracy theory, what you just laid out, but hey, this is political. Everything. Who once said that everything's political? There's not one thing that isn't political. I think that's the grand plan. And I'm not necessarily a Republican. I really don't have a party affiliation, but I can see when a dirty trick is being played, and I think you're on the right track.
Yeah, no, I think they want to create a whole class of people who are dependent on the government for their livelihood. And that is the Democratic strategy. The Democrats are all about big government, hooking people up on big government, and you will always be reelected if you give handouts. And the Democrats are about giving handouts. The Republicans are about giving people to reach out for something that you could not have imagined. Just reach out and do something in your life that you never thought you could do. Let's have vibrancy. Let's have capitalism. Let's have you think, you know what? I could create a car, Henry Ford. I could create a cell phone, Steve Jobs. The Democrats don't want creation. They want calcification. They want people just hooked up on the welfare state forever and ever and ever.
They've succeeded, and the problem is they've succeeded. And I'm all for helping people out when they're down and out, but when does it end? And and Mayor Adams, terrible disappointment. In my mind, I didn't have expectations that great to begin with, to be honest with you. Many did, but I happened not to. but I knew his the cut of his jib, so to speak, when he was. They used to say about he was a house mouse. A house mouse is a cop that never ventures outside and does a lot of paperwork. And that's what they said about Mayor Adams. And he's kind of just, he makes a speech, he doesn't follow through, and then he makes another speech, so on and so forth, but nothing seems to get done.
Well, the problem with him, Ralph, is that he has no clout. So he cannot go to the White House and have a meeting with Joe Biden. He can't even have a meeting with Kamala Harris. And, you and I could probably have a meeting with Kamala Harris because you got nothing else to do in her day.
That's pretty much it.
But he can't get a meeting with her. So he's a pathetic, I mean, one of the worst mayors in the history of this city. He has no clout. He does not have what, and I knew Ed Koch, and I knew, I know Rudy Giuliani, but Rudy, God help him. Ed Koch was a great mayor, and I knew Ed pretty well. And Ed Koch was like, okay, I have the biggest megaphone on the planet, and I'm going to use it, and I'm going to go after the government to help New York State in the 1970s when Ed did. And Ed had the connections to the Congress. He had the connections to Tip O'Neill, who was the Speaker of the House of Representatives back then. He could put pressure on the country to help New York City. Eric Adams has no connections, no pressure, no megaphone, nothing. He's just blowing his stuff up to the wind, and nobody is listening. And here's my fear, Ralph. And I'm in New York City for 30 years, right? And I came here in the 80s when, as you know, it was like, not a place.
It was a war zone out there, yes.
And I saw Rudy Giuliani when he was sane, and he's now insane, but when he was sane, he saved it. And there is nobody like that on the planet. The three great mayors of New York City, LaGuardia during the Depression, which was a tough time. Ed Koch in the 70s, who thought, okay, we have to make our peace with Wall Street. We're a bunch of Democrats. We hate capitalists, but without Wall Street, we have no city because the city is about Wall Street. And Rudy Giuliani, who said, we're going to make the city safe again. There's nothing like that from Eric Adams. Nothing. He's excuse. Sorry. Eric Adams does not have the stature of Ed Koch or Rudy Giuliani or LaGuardia.
No, I trained Ed Koch. He came to the gym 3 times a week, and I used to talk to him at 6 o'clock in the morning. And he's a very good man. He's a little bit of an elitist. You wouldn't think so. You thought he was down with the people on the street. Yeah, but he had that side to him. I don't think he remembered my name from one training session to the other. But he did give me a few good tidbits in the day. I was a young kid, but he was a mayor you could identify with a little bit. You saw him down there with the megaphone, like you mentioned. This guy, I don't know what his end game is, but he's not getting any help from Washington, as you said, and I don't see any help coming in the foreseeable future. And that's a shame. Where do we go from here? That's the question.
Well, listen, the thing about Ed Koch was, and I knew Ed a little bit, and I interviewed him toward the end of his life for a book that I wrote called Razzle Dazzle, The Battle for Broadway.
Yeah.
And the funny thing about Ed was he was like, all right, it's New York City. It's the rough and tumble. We have to figure out how it goes together, and we got to put it together. And Ed said to me, Joe Papp, remember Joe Papp, the
sure,
Public Theater? Joe, do you remember, Ralph, when they were tearing down those theaters in Times Square and there was a big civil war on Broadway?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
They were tearing down, I can't remember the Belasco, the Morosco. I can't remember the theaters right now.
But
They
that was the big one that I remember. That name rings a bell. Yes.
The Morosco, which was
Mhm.
a Long Day's Journey into Night.
Yes.
Eugene O'Neill's play opened up there. And so they were tearing down the theaters because back then Koch was sort of like, all right, I gotta build a hotel here so that people will come to Times Square. So I gotta knock out these theaters, and we have to have the Marriott Marquis Hotel. And he built that hotel, and he used eminent domain to whack down those theaters. I remember Jason Robards and Colleen Dewhurst and all the great actors. They were furious about it. They were furious about it. And Joe Papp was there, and Joe Papp said to Ed Koch, he said, "All right, Ed, I hate what you're doing, and I want a platform. I want a kind of like a truck platform so I can denounce what you're doing, and I need
Hmm.
a permit from you." And Koch said, "Okay, Joe, you can have it. Just don't denounce me. Just, don't say I'm the bad guy."
Right.
And then Joe Papp said, "Okay, it's fine. Just, I'll do my thing." And then Ed Koch told me when I interviewed him for my book, Razzle Dazzle, Joe Papp got up there and said, "And Ed Koch is taking down all of these theaters." After Ed Koch had given Joe Papp the permit to bring the truck there so that Joe
Uh,
Papp could denounce the tearing down of the theaters. So, but you know what? It was a wonderful thing. I remember this so well. Ed said to me, he said, "You know what? Joe was a great guy. He did so much for the city. He did so much for bringing theater to people who would never have seen theater before." And I remember Ed said, "You know what? At the end of the day, you forgive the good guys." And Joe Papp was one of the good guys.
well, speaking of which, you just brought me to something else that was on my mind, being an actor myself. Broadway in the state of, yeah, it hasn't come back fully. We talked about this.
Yeah.
I kind of think that the quality of the shows aren't great. When they throw something up there about, Neil Diamond and call it a play or some sort of I don't know. More or less it's a concert of some guy imitating Neil Diamond, doing all his best music and sending everybody home afterwards. That's pretty much what it is to me. Do you think the quality is down, or do you think people are afraid to come in because of the violent crime, or a combination of both, maybe?
I think people are, I, I would say the biggest problem, Ralph, for Broadway right now is that during COVID, people got used to being at home and people like being at home. And when they were at home, they could stream every great show of all time, Succession, for example, back then.
Hmm.
They could look at great actors doing great material and they could do it in their home. And I think the fundamental thing that Broadway cannot grasp is that Broadway thought that people want to go back to live theater. They want to be back there. They want to be in the theater. They want to be with people. Well, you know what? After COVID, people don't want to be with people. They don't want to be with people. And this is the fundamental problem for Broadway. People would say, you know what? I would rather sit in my home with my big screen TV and I can watch Succession or the reruns of The Sopranos. And I don't want to get in my car, go into the city, see a show that I'm not even sure is that any good. And I think that's the problem, the fundamental problem for Broadway. People don't need live theater anymore. They've gotten used to it without having it.
Well, there's no other experience other than that. For those who are aficionados like myself, to go see a show in real time and witness a different performance every night, it's a
Right,
beautiful thing. You can't get, yeah.
But Ralph, let me ask you, you live in the suburbs. I mean, are you rushing in to see the latest show on Broadway?
No, and that's a good point.
No.
But I think that mostly because number one, it's very expensive. It becomes ridiculous how much that night is going to cost you. You got to, you don't want to go in public transportation because, you're not taking trains here and there. So, trains to go down subterranean New York these days, you got to take your life in your hands sometimes. It's not necessarily a pleasant experience. There are many factors, but to me, I don't see anything, and I may be wrong, I don't see anything worth seeing that's going to blow me away that I'm going to say, man, that was worth that $600 I just spent on this play. Do you have a favorite right now?
No, you put your finger on it, Ralph. There was nothing that is exciting the way that The Lion King was exciting, the way Wicked was exciting, the way Hamilton was exciting. Something that galvanized Broadway, something that made Broadway bigger than just our little area here in New York City, where the country knew something exciting was going on in New York. There was no show out there, not a single show out there that has galvanized the world the way Hamilton, Wicked, and The Lion King did when I was covering those shows.
And you were the only one that we agree with each other about Hamilton. What an overrated. I mean, come on. I tried to sit through that. I couldn't make it. I mean, to me, it's a lot of hooey. I don't know. Am I being too harsh?
No, to me, it was like a fifth grade history lesson about, the American Revolution in rhyme. So it was, wildly overrated. But we cannot, Ralph, deny its impact on Broadway.
It's true.
And by the way, I would say I didn't like the show like you. I didn't like the show, but
Mhm.
I always appreciate a show that elevates Broadway to the point in American popular culture. And so I'm all for that. And that's what Hamilton did. And I am in favor of that, even though I did not like the show, but I love the fact that it elevated Broadway to people's across the country, their perception that Broadway is a great place to go to see shows. So
Well, they were coming to these shows in droves before the dreaded virus. We were doing pretty well. Although I even thought the show's quality were down at that particular time, but it didn't show in the box office. So who knows? I'll go to Trump now because I have to, because all of my people, they want to hear your take on Trump. Now, it's easy to say he's being railroaded. It's easy to say that he's getting a raw deal. Easy to say that he's just being raked over the coals. But to me, I don't know if does anything that's being brought against him have any merit whatsoever in your mind, or just a load of nonsense?
um I would say most of it's a load of nonsense. I would, from my mind, the only one he really fucked up on was, why did you hide the documents? It's like boxes, just give them back. I mean, he didn't give them back. That I don't understand. Everything else, Letitia James, Alvin Bragg, all these other people, that's like, we hate Trump, we're going to try to kill him. But the only thing I would say to Trump, if he's listening, I would say, Jesus Christ. I mean, you brought the documents and they wanted them back. Just give them back. Why did you
Right.
not give the documents back? It's not that complicated. Can't hear you, Ralph. Can't hear
You hear me now?
you. Yeah, yeah,
Am I back? That was plain pigheaded. That was typical Donald Trump, just being stubborn as a mule. Would you agree?
yeah, totally. I mean, all right. So I had the documents. We all took documents. Who knows? They're boxes. Why would he would cover it up? That I don't know. That's weird. I mean,
Maybe he had something to hide, but nothing major. He
no,
just didn't. He just thought that he's above it all. He didn't want to give it back, and that's it.
yeah, but at the end of the day, you should have made a deal and say, okay, we'll give it back to you and you can come over and comb through the documents and take them out. So, but I will tell you this, Ralph, and I'm going to
Yeah.
predict Donald Trump is going to be reelected as the president of the United States
That was my next question.
because the American people cannot be fooled. They cannot be fooled by the mainstream media, which is trying to prop up Joe Biden, who is a dribbling old Alzheimer patient. And everybody who looks at him, whenever he goes out there, thinks this guy cannot run the country. He cannot run the country. And Kamala Harris is a vile, hateful person. Nobody wants her there. And so you think, all right, Trump is crazy, and he is crazy in his own way. But at least with Trump, you have vigor, you have energy, you have somebody who believes in the country, who is not going to sell the country short the way Biden is doing now with Iran. Ralph, the fundamental thing that I don't understand about Democrats, and maybe you can answer this question, why do Democrats always appease the Iranians?
You asking me? Well, Obama gave them a truckload of money and no one really made a big issue. To me, that was a big move of some sort of I don't know, is there something that we don't know that's behind that kind of a move? Cash money, billions of dollars? I don't want to go back to that administration because it's useless. It's in the past. But when you think about what went on from there and Biden taking I guess the lead from his predecessor. What would you think? I mean, there's some sort of plan maybe we're not privy to.
I don't know. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I think there's some fundamentally in the Democratic heart, by Democratic friends, that they just feel that, you know what, we have to appease and appease and appease. We have to always find a way not to have a war, but we have to appease. And the great thing about Trump, as lunatic as Trump was, and let's be honest, I mean, I love the guy, but he's a nut job. But the world was afraid of him because they thought, my God, this guy seriously could really go out.
Just for the fact you just said it was a nut job, and that's what they thought.
That's right, and it can do us some damage.
There's nothing wrong with that. It's good. It's good that the
I loved it. I loved it. And now the world is like, Russia's like, Biden is like one of these old guys, been there forever. He's, part of the mainstream media. They'll never do anything. The red line in the sand, as Barack Obama once said. Well, the red line was drawn. You crossed it. We didn't do anything. But with Trump, I fundamentally believe that with Trump, Vladimir Putin, the Houthis, Hezbollah, and Hamas, like, God, Trump, he could actually drop a bomb on our heads, and he could do it in a minute. And I think that is why Donald Trump is going to be reelected president, because we are not safe with the Democrats and Joe Biden, because they are too feckless, they are too weak to stand up for this country. And Trump, for all of his insanity, is the person who would say, here is the line in the sand. And by the way, if you cross it, I'm going to drop a bomb on your head.
Nothing wrong with fearing the president in that fashion. Hey, Reagan, they used to think the same thing about Reagan, who was pretty docile compared to our guy now. See, I'll differ with you on this one. I think regardless, irrespective of all this, I mean, the worst presidency since Jimmy Carter, if not worse than Jimmy Carter, I think worse than Jimmy Carter. I'm with you. I think he gets in for another 4 years just because we're that stupid. Just because Trump alienates just enough people to just let him squeak in again in another questionable election. That's my take on November.
Could be. I would not argue against that. I think that at the end of the day, that enough people will say, you know what, I can't take Donald Trump anymore, so we'll go with Joe Biden. But you have to remember this: you're not voting for Joe Biden. You're voting for Kamala Harris, because Joe Biden is going to be dead in 2 years.
Just think that this woman's a heartbeat away. That's pretty frightening.
And who is she? She is wasn't she like Willie Brown's fuck buddy back in the day?
You put it so well. I couldn't do better. That's exactly she. What do they say? She slept her way to the top, and she didn't have to do too much.
Nothing. I mean,
It was, it was kind of like, a little favor here, a little favor there.
yeah, she's a total joke, that woman. Um, but I do believe to save this country, and listen, I have my issues with Donald Trump. He's insane in some ways, but I will tell you this. When Donald Trump, was saying lock Hillary Clinton up, you know what he didn't do? He didn't lock Hillary Clinton up.
No, he didn't.
But you know what his opposition did to him? They indicted him 91 times.
You're so right about that.
That's what they did to him. Because Donald Trump did not. He said, I won the election.
He let it go.
I got to do this. I'm going to say, lock her up, lock her up. I'm not going to lock her up. Donald Trump is a fundamental great American in the sense they said, all right, we won the battle. That's it. But the left wing in this country is willing to go to the Supreme Court in Colorado to take Donald Trump off the ballot. If that is not fascism, I don't know what is.
Yeah. Colorado, Maine.
Yep.
They almost got away with it. January 6th, we had the commemoration a few days back. Just your thoughts in general. Yeah, was this a equivalent to 9/11, equivalent to Pearl Harbor?
I would not say that it is. I would also say, though, that people storming the Capitol should be arrested. They were breaking the law, and I do believe in the rule of the law. And those people who went crazy, they should be prosecuted if they broke into the Capitol. But I would not say that it is what's called an insurrection. And very interesting to me that Jack Smith, the prosecutor against Trump, has not put in his indictment against Trump that was an insurrection. Because
they never used that word?
He cannot prove it. He cannot prove it. He cannot prove it.
Because technically it's not.
Trump said
it's more like a riot in a very a very bad place to riot. Those if you talk about nut jobs, now they were a pack of nut jobs, and 1,200 or so, I think I have that number right. 1,200 are still in prison.
Yeah, listen, Ralph, I can't make any defense for people who rioted around the Capitol. I just can't. I mean, it's not in me, and I can't do it. Those guys, they were like, wearing Davy Crockett hats, and
yeah, it would be funny if it wasn't so tragic.
But what I would have to say, though, to the mainstream media out there, do you seriously think, guys, you at NPR, the New York Times, that you thought the country was going to be overthrown by some lunatic with a Davy Crockett hat on and blue paint on his face? I mean, seriously, is that really the threat? I will tell you, Ralph, what the threat to democracy will be is when Donald Trump is reelected as the president and the left goes completely crazy, and the mainstream media will protect those people who will riot on the streets because they will say it is legitimate protesting. That is what's going to happen in this country. And I would say to Donald Trump, be magnanimous. Only round up a few people and knock their heads out. Only put a few.
He just said magnanimous and Donald Trump in the same sentence.
I know. But
again, I just hate bullies. That's why I don't take to Donald Trump. That's my main reason. It's very superficial reason on my part. I know he never paid his debts. I know he bullied everybody around. The little guy got bullied by big shot Donald Trump. And, from a guy that was in the theater and everybody had abject disdain for the guy, it's hard not to seep into the brain once in a while when I heard all this negative stuff about him through the years. But I will say you have to weigh the issue. You have to say, do we go for this tired old man who's 82 going on 102? Or do we go for the other guy who gives us a shot in hell to do something? I think I don't know what I'm going to do, but I would hold my nose, maybe vote for Donald Trump this time, I think.
Yeah, I don't think he's good.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I actually think that Trump could be a great president. I mean, I think he should if he's reelected. And by the way, I do think he's going to win. because the mainstream media does not understand the rest of the country. And the rest of the country is thinking, you elites, you people who think you can shove your way of life down our throats, F you.
That's right.
But what I would say about Trump is, and I would only give this advice if he's listening to our radio show. I would say to Trump, I would say, be be magnanimous, be the new president, and say, you know what? I'm not going to pursue my enemies. I'm not going to go after everybody. Uh, I was elected legitimately this time, and we're going to go forward with this country, and we're going to put together a country that can be strong again. We're going to stand up to our enemies in a way that Biden has not. Well, believe me, Biden has not stood up to our enemies.
No, he's weak.
He's totally weak. And Trump will say, I'm in charge now, and I am the new Ronald Reagan. So don't fuck around with me because you guys know what I can possibly do to you. And after that, I'm going to lower taxes and I'm going to unleash the forces of capitalism in New York. Because Ralph, the fundamental thing here is that if we elect Democrats again, they want to put us on the road to socialism. This is where they're going. This is where they want to go. And Biden, who's a fuddy-duddy old man who's no control over anything, will be controlled by all of the people behind him who are thinking, let's create the welfare state here in America. Let's just go down the path of, we can just raise taxes, and let the open borders go on and bring everybody in. Donald Trump is the man who stands between America as we know it, America with its vibrancy, its capitalism, its energy, or the lethargy of socialism. And though that is the choice that we have to face right now.
The funny thing, Michael, is that Biden was a very moderate guy, as I remember him, 25 years ago.
Yeah.
This is a guy who bought into the woke culture to a great extent. Whether because he's, I guess dementia ridden now, but I don't know. But he's not the guy he used to be, even 20 years ago, even 15 years ago, 10 years ago. He's much different now.
The guy has no clue what's going on. I mean, look at him. I mean, they have to have a plane that's like a helicopter now so that it lands low so he can walk down the lower stairs. I mean, the guy has no clue what's going on. And my question is, Ralph, for the country, who's running the country? When you have your defense secretary who disappeared for 4 days, Lloyd Austin, and the president of the United States has no idea that the defense secretary went AWOL?
That was the strangest thing I've ever seen. I was going to ask you about that. I'm glad you brought it up. Your take on that?
It tells you that Joe Biden is not in charge anymore. He is a fuddy-duddy old Alzheimer's caretaker, and there is nobody running the country. Can you imagine Bill Clinton, Ronald Reagan, Jimmy Carter, even as bad as he was, not being in touch with their defense secretary when the Houthis were blowing up ships in the Red Sea? How do you not know, as the president of the United States, that your defense secretary is AWOL? How is this possible?
It's both of their faults, wouldn't you say? What's up with this secretary who doesn't let his boss know about his status?
Because Ralph, he knows his boss is old and out of touch and there's no fucking clue of what's going on. So he could do whatever he wants to.
You're letting it fly today. I like it. We don't hear this side on the radio. I like it. It's very nice. But okay. Now you mentioned the aircraft, and what comes to mind is this whole. I guess it was the window or the side of the aircraft just blew off of this plane, and I just imagine all the the plane rides that I've taken in my life. If I was sitting there just, biding my time and thinking about my my landing in the nearby airport, and suddenly the whole thing just blows out. What did you make of that situation?
I would only fly airlines that have Airbus and not Boeing, because apparently Boeing has a very deep problem with their planes that they have done. Um, and I guess I would say if the plane blows out, I would
You're just sitting there, and the whole side just yeah. And where were they? And this is I'm remiss on this. Where were they
they were
in the
60,000
flight? Was it just after takeoff?
Yeah. You know, what I would say, frankly, is that when the thing blew out, I said, it's time for me to get off. So see ya.
You take your parachute and jump.
But
How about those wonderful protesters closing the bridges and the tunnels?
oh,
Aren't they wonderful?
don't get me started on these people. I mean, these people, they're anti-Semites to begin with. They hate Israel, but also that spilled into hating Jews. And I'm really upset about all this kind of nonsense. I do understand, Ralph. I do understand, and this is the nub of the situation, when the Western powers of the world back in 1947 created Israel. They did, and we have to face the facts here. They did move people who had lived, Arabs, who had lived in those lands for a long time, and they shoved them out. They absolutely destroyed their lives. They took over their homes, they blew up their homes, and they shoved them out. That I understand. But I also understand from the Jewish perspective, you guys in the world have tried to kill us for years, and you almost killed all of us in Europe. Hitler and the Nazis. You killed 6 million of us. And we are finally fed up with this crap. And we want a homeland that we can protect. But in order to get that homeland, we have to push a lot of Palestinians out of that homeland. And Ralph, I fundamentally don't know how you square that.
Do you think it should be a no holds barred effort on Israel's part? The casualties be damned and just go full force?
I do. I do. I do believe that Israel has the right to exist because of what the world has tried to do to the Jews over the years. And I think Israel needs to protect itself, protect its homeland, protect its borders. And Israel has, over the years, Ralph, offered so many opportunities for the Palestinians to make their peace with Israel, to create a two-state solution, as they say. And every time Israel is close to making that deal, the Palestinians blow it up.
Yeah. And well, it's such a delicate issue. And these fools, when they from the land to the swim, what is the cry? Now it's
From the
escaping me.
river to the sea.
River to the sea.
Uh,
Palestine must be free. I mean, there's no nation
I've been,
called Palestine.
Ralph, I've been to Israel 3 times. I mean, I
Hmm.
love the country. I'm a huge supporter of Israel. Israelis have been wanting to make their peace. They had it with Clinton,
Hmm.
with the Oslo Accords. They had
Hmm.
Yasser Arafat, and Yasser Arafat said, if I make this deal, I'm going to be killed. And he didn't make the deal. And then he had the intifada. So, fuck the Arabs. I'm sorry, fuck the Arabs. The Jews have trying to make peace with you for a long time, and you won't do it. Because if
They
you
want all or nothing. They don't want to compromise.
they don't. If and by the way, you Arabs, well, there's stuff going on with the Saudi Arabia, all that kind of stuff was going on,
Hmm.
and we know that Hamas is trying to blow this whole thing up. But here's the thing. This is what I love about the Jews, right? I'm a Presbyterian, but I love the Jews. Jews are like, you fucking tried to kill us for centuries. Now we have the power. We got the country and we got the nuclear bomb. So don't fuck with us anymore. Because if you're really going to come after us, we are going to destroy you in ways you have no idea. And that is called strength. That is called Ronald Reagan strength. That is called American strength that I don't think that someone like Joe Biden is capable of exercising. We need somebody like Donald Trump who says, all right, guys, you're messing around here, you're messing around here, but we're bigger than you are. And by the way, we can take you out tomorrow. So stop fucking around. And I fundamentally, Ralph, do not understand why Democrats don't have that capability of telling the bad guys, stop fucking around or we're going to knock you off.
You have to have that heavy hand. Without that heavy hand, you have no power. You have to be a little bit, a little bit off, a little bit nuts. And the enemy has to know that. It's plain and simple.
And the enemy has to be afraid of you because
that's right.
Do not know what you can possibly do to your enemy. And that's what Donald Trump had, which is what we need back now. Because with Joe Biden, they're thinking, well, the guy can't even eat Jell-O, so why are we afraid of him?
but he eats his ice cream.
Well,
he's very into the stupid ice cream. Every remark he makes, the ice cream.
I know.
It drives me nuts. And you know something? I didn't have the abject disdain that I have for him now. 10, 15 years ago, I saw him on the periphery. I saw him kind of like, oh, here's this nice guy. He's a mediator. He's kind of middle of the road. He buffs over a bad situation. That's the way I used to see him. But man, did he buy into the whole, he was never this left, as I mentioned before, as he is now. And it's just a shame. There are old 81-year-olds and spry 81-year-olds. This guy is maybe 81 going on 101. And that's the shame of it. And what do you think about Joe Biden, Jill, the wife, letting him go out there in his condition?
Well, clearly she's running the ship here. I mean,
You think so?
Look, have you ever seen her up there? You can see the power in her eyes.
Yeah.
That was the power. She is what, who was it? Calvin Coolidge? He was the one who had the stroke and his wife was running?
Oh, the wife ran the show, yes.
This is what Jill Biden is doing. She is running the show. That's why. And by the way, the other reason that the Bidens don't want to give up power is because they know Hunter is going to go to jail. They want Joe in there so he can pardon Hunter, because Hunter is the most corrupt person on the planet, and the Bidens want to cling to power so that they can pardon themselves. And also, by the way, to be totally fair, Donald Trump wants to get power so he can pardon himself. So we've got two presidents running so that they can pardon their families.
I have a concept. Tell me what you think. Instead of the traditional 8 years, the 4 years, re-election, second term, so on and so forth, don't you think to prevent these people from these candidates or these presidents actually from getting in there for 4 years, spending their whole first term trying to get in the second time? Don't you think the solution would be maybe a 6-year term, one time? That way you see the real person the entire reign of power. You think that's off, or you think that it won't ever happen? But do you think that's a concept that you could entertain?
No, I think that we should be able to reevaluate our president after 4 years and decide if he's doing a good job or a bad job. And we should be either to vote him into power or vote him out of power.
But think about what I said about that. You see how you don't see the true man. It's always been a man, the true man so far, the true man during those 4 years. You just see a guy that's trying to appease everybody. No, you don't buy in.
No, I disagree with that. I mean,
okay.
I think great presidents like like Ronald Reagan, reset the game and said, this is where the country should go. And you could make the case that, Barack Obama, who I was never a big fan of, but Barack Obama reset things too and said, okay, let's tamp down how far right we've gone. Let's bring it back to the middle class. Let's have Obamacare. And I can't believe I'm saying this, but in some ways, he was right about Obamacare because it it has been a great healthcare for a lot of people who did not have healthcare. So I would not do the 6 year thing. No, I believe 4 years, and if you've done a good job for 4 years, we'll vote you back into office for another 4 years. If you
And you
didn't, we vote you out.
and you have to admit it's going to be close. I don't think it's a landslide either way. Do you?
Yes, it's going to be close, but I will say this. I do believe that there are enough people in America who are really, really upset about the border, the migration, all of the people coming to this country that we can't take care of, that we can't look after. And you have a president who has no policy. I do believe that the American people will say, you know what? We need to secure our borders to protect our country. And the only person who is going to do that is Donald Trump, because it is not Joe Biden. He has been absent on the border control.
Yeah, and he sent Kamala down there. What do you expect?
Oh, well, there you
He
go.
said, go ahead, sweetheart, take care of it." She did a bang up job, didn't she?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Brilliant.
She
Absolutely.
giggled her way through. Do you remember?
Yeah, yeah, she did. So.
That it's just it's so sad. It's funny sometimes, but mostly sad because I just remember growing up where they gave my friend Tricky Dick so much trouble in 1972, when really when you look at his crime, yeah, you can argue that it was dastardly, but to me it wasn't the greatest crime in the world. And now the things that this guy has gotten away with, and others pale. I think his crime, Richard Nixon in 72, pales in comparison.
Yeah, listen, I'm not going to make the big case for Richard Nixon. I mean, he did try to cover things up, and
He did. The cover up killed him.
yeah, but you can also, you can't have the Republican Party breaking into the Democratic headquarters and
It was
what?
a strange thing. We were kids back then.
Yeah, we were, but you can't have that. I mean, listen, I'm not going to make the case for Richard Nixon, although he was a brilliant politician. Um, but
Paranoid but brilliant.
yeah, the thing that bothers me, Ralph, and then we got to wrap it up here because I've got
Yeah.
to go off. Here's what bothers me most of all. The Letitia James suit against Trump, which I think is going on right now. Yeah, Trump had the his summation yesterday.
Hmm.
Here's what really bothers me about the Democrats, and I think this is Democratic and not Republican. The Democrats hate Donald Trump so much, they're willing to weaponize the justice system against him. Letitia James ran on saying, I will find a crime to kill Donald Trump. There's no crime there. I have no evidence of a crime, but I hate him so much that I will find the crime. And once I find it, I will kill him. And what really annoys me, Ralph, is that the mainstream media in this country, the New York Times, National Public Radio, they think it is okay to destroy a man because you hate him so much that we will be in favor of abrogating the Constitution and your legal rights just because we hate you and we will come after you. There is no threat from Donald Trump and the insurrectionists and the MAGA people. The real threat The real threat against democracy is coming from the left, because the left wants to silence you and say, you know what, your point of view, you support Donald Trump, we hate you, and we will shut you down. That is where the threat of fascism is coming, not from the right, but from the left.
Well, on that note, I really appreciate the time.
Yeah.
It was fantastic today.
Well, all right, Ralph, good to see you. But remember,
But I have to tell you one thing about the program in the morning. It's actually gotten better than before, because I have to say that for some reason on my streaming device, I couldn't get OR for quite some time. I was having trouble. So I went somewhere else, the competition, and man, I couldn't take it. My wife couldn't take it, Cynthia. I couldn't take it. And we came back and we said, we really appreciate these two more than ever before, because now we know how the other side operates. And Cynthia says Michael's still my favorite. She says that every video. So
here's the thing, though, Ralph. At the end of the day, I mean, listen, Len and I, we love each other. We've been working together for 6 years, and the only thing I can say in this difficult time, this sort of terrible moment in the world where we're all like at each other's throats. Okay, we can disagree, but don't hate. Don't hate the person you disagree with. Just have some fun. Do the battle. I mean, go after it. I mean, Ralph, I believe fundamentally in some things that I talk about all the time. But my friend Len, he disagrees with me. And when he disagrees with me, I want to kill him, but I still love him. And
as long as he has an opinion, you want the guy to have an opinion. Sometimes he'll come up, I have nothing to say on that matter.
I know.
And that's when I say, come on, Len. You can do better than that.
But it's okay. It's okay. I prefer peace to war.
That's true.
So,
That's true. You're a diplomat. All
right.
right. All right. We'll talk again soon. I appreciate it again, Mike.
All right. Good.
All right. Take care.
Bye-bye.